Imperialist Germany in Africa, project by Tommy Rice, Hadley Shaw, and Justin Womble. Rationales of Imperialism. In the quote, we see a British writer calling out Germany for, quote, misjudging humanity altogether. There is clearly some irony in this claim considering the British's handling of colonialism in Africa, but using this we can infer Germany's treatment was incredibly violent and malicious, and even the British were wary of it. Germany being incapable of recognizing human rights in Africa is a clear signal of social Darwinism, and these traits would long carry over into Germany's near future back in Europe. The second source is a cartoon depicting the Berlin Conference organized by Otto von Bismarck, Imperial Germany's chancellor. This meeting is widely considered to be the formalization of the scramble for Africa, the struggle between European countries to control land belonging to other people. This meeting divided Africa into distinct sectors ruled by different countries based on natural resources without considering other people groups. These decisions were made without representation of any African countries. The decision to disregard people groups in the meeting shows how Germany believes itself to be so far above the Africans, and their resources were the only thing important to them. The way they divided up the land shows the focus on economic gain above all else.
Map of territorial expansion in German Africa. Germany didn't have any presence in Africa until after the Berlin Conference, which spanned from late 1884 to early 1885. At the Berlin Conference, Germany obtained German Southwest Africa, Cameroon, Togoland, and German East Africa. One notable expansion was the Zanzibar Treaty between Germany and Britain in 1890, where Germany gained the Caprivi Strip in German Southwest Africa, as well as an expansion of land in German East Africa. Germany adopted a hybrid system of direct and indirect control over their territories. This hybrid was not the exact same in every colony, but they all revolved around the same ideas and principles. The highest authority was always senior German officials. This is the direct control aspect. However, African chiefs were also given positions of power in these colonies. This is indirect control. The Africans in the government were restricted in how high they could rise in ranks because of their race, but were still given positions of power nonetheless. Germany intended to implement full direct control and convert the African natives into new Germans, but instead what happened was a divide was created between the Africans and Germans, resulting in high tensions and revolts.
Indigenous responses to state expansion. This poem, titled Sati Ya Dahiki, was written by Abdi Latif Abdallah in 1973. It reads, I spoke the truth to the leaders of this country. I recounted one by one to the citizens of this country how they have been deprived in their opposition ranks. Now being in trouble is the price I am made to pay. Although the poem was written long after the Germans left East Africa, the poet is calling out to his leaders for improvement in their new country and to seek the truth. He tells the leaders and the citizens to remember colonialism and how terrible the Germans' reign was. Abdallah reveals that his people do not want to go back into colonialism because of how they were treated, and they do not want to relive that injustice. The Magi Rebellion. The Magi Rebellion was an armed rebellion in which Africans revolted against the Germans in German East Africa. African natives were forced to pay high taxes, which caused them to work difficult labor to enhance the German state. They had to grow crops, work on plantations, build railways, bridges, roads, and telephone lines. This labor was effectively slavery, and the Africans were outraged. The lyrics, We are the Said's family alone, be it an Mpogoro, Mkichi, Matumbi, we are all the Saids, were sung by the rebellion's leader by the name of Kinjekitile Ngwele. And in them, the Africans are claiming that they are Muslim Africans, not Germans, and that no matter what tribe they are from, they will unite to defeat the Germans. This was both a symbol of nationalism, but also unity among the natives. Although the revolt was unsuccessful, it did force the German government to pass reforms in German East Africa.
Manufacturing process in German Africa. Cotton was German East Africa's largest export. The cotton trade was very active all throughout Africa during the time. However, Germany had a harder time getting their cotton growing off the ground, as the natives to their areas were less familiar with growing cotton. Once the industry got its feet off the ground, the supply chain looked a little bit like this. First, the cotton was planted and grown in German East Africa. After being harvested, the cotton was transported along the eastern coast of Africa, where Germany had naval control at the time, and then through the Mediterranean Sea, and finally up to Germany. After its arrival in Germany, the cotton was refined and manufactured into clothes in German mills and factories. The manufactured clothes were supplied to German soldiers as well as sold to other countries.
According to Albert F. Calvert, a British journalist, as a result of the German colonization of the Togolands, quote, a stable government has been established, the hinterland has been opened up, 3 railways and many excellent roads have been built. Looking back at 6.3 and the Magi Rebellion, we learned that the African natives in East Africa were forced into building infrastructure such as railroads for the Germans, as we can see in the image on the right here. Similar things happened in Germany's other 3 African colonies: Togo, which Calvert is talking about here, Southwest Africa, which we will look at the next slide, and in Cameroon. The Africans in Togo were most likely the ones who cleared the Badlands and built the railroads for the Germans. These railroads allowed Germany to easily move raw materials throughout their colonies in order to ship them back to industrialized Germany for manufacturing purposes. Railroads are a prime example of how the Germans used labor obtained through colonialism in order to produce capital for themselves. Okay, and on this next slide, we see Southwest Africa, or modern day Namibia. And on here we see 2 maps. The map on the left being the modern day railroad web in Namibia. And the map on the right is that same map, except one portion is highlighted in red. The red outline is the rail line that was built during the German colonization of Southwest Africa. The line starts in the center of the colony and ends at the coast. This was clearly built for economic benefit, as it allowed Germany to transport their raw materials from the center of the colony to the coast where they could be shipped back to Germany to be manufactured. And not unlike other African German colonies, the natives were forced to build this infrastructure, again, purely for the benefit of their colonizers.
Causes of migration. Germany based all colonization after Britain and the success of their colonies. Germany declared its protectorate in 1885 with the intention of emulating the English success and creating an economically prosperous settlement in South Africa. In 1908, Frederick von Lindequist, Undersecretary in the German Colonial Office, was ordered to survey highlands of German East Africa to study the feasibility of an expanded settlement from Germany in the colony. He traveled by boat around Europe, through the Mediterranean and then the Red Sea, and then following the Gold Coast all the way to German East Africa. The people were already under strict control at this point, so he traveled the territory uninterrupted from top to bottom, discovering a few things. First of all, the land is relatively the same throughout. Secondly, the report claimed that German East African conditions are comparable to that of Nyasaland and British East Africa. Lastly, Frederick also discovered that elevation was perfect, as it was the same altitude as Germany itself. There were plans to lead a mass settlement, but they were scrapped during World War I, and the colony would be promptly lost after the war. These settlements would begin to turn into Germany East Africa into a functional state rather than just extended farmland for the mother country, but they never had time to play out. Effects of migration. Prior to the start of the colonial effort, all of German Africa's territories were exclusively farmland or militarized areas to keep the farms at work. Goals of migration were to create a functioning, economically stable settlement much like the English had, so that the colony could not produce any materials, but also sustain as an own settlement and grow. Although World War I would cut everything off before people could travel over, the government had already begun building infrastructure to modernize the area. These systems, now with modernized technology, are still in place today. This mainly took place in railroads between all major developments, and modern communication and farming equipment. These technologies helped Germany East Africa function and grow long after they dropped that name.
Causation in the Imperial Age. As Germany industrialized, they expanded overseas into Africa, forming several colonies in different regions, and strengthened their bond with Great Britain through treaties. The Germans made a bad first impression on the Africans, however, with strict rule and forced labor, even after slavery was outlawed. We know that Germany expanded and controlled land in Africa because there is an account from Friedrich von Lindquist, a German colonial officer, as he surveyed the land in and near German East Africa to determine if the land was quality enough to expand into. There is also a copy of the Zanzibar Treaty that proves that Germany did indeed both make a treaty with Britain and expand further into Africa.
Alright, you guys made it to the end of the video. Here's the works cited page for Ms. Zerbst. And for the rest of y'all, I hope our project helped you understand more about Germany's control over their colonies in Africa and will help you get a good grade on the Unit 6 exam. Bye for now. Have a good one.